Hi guys, Ham here. So look, I've taken you through all the rigs that I use and everything else. One thing I haven't shown you is the traces that I make. So the traces are quite a key component as far as catching fish. So most of my rigs, you add a trace to it. So let's have a look at some of those. Right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a trace which clips to a pulley rig or a running rig. And first thing you need, I'm going to make 3 different traces today, is you need one of these quick clips. And the quick clip there is what you attach your trace to that can go on and off to the running rig or the pulley rig. You need beads, so get some beads up here, some floats. So I'm going to do bead one, a float one, and a skirt one. I'll just do one skirt one, but as you can see I've got 3 different colour skirts here, green, pink and orange. Now they all have their own purpose, which I find, this is only from my own experience, some other people may say different, but what I've found with skirts is certain colours, they can all catch any type of fish, but they up your chances with certain species. So if I'm going for gurnard, I generally use the orange and the green. If I'm going for gurnard, it's one of those ones, usually I catch gurnard. If it's snapper, I usually go with the pink or the orange, and that usually catches snapper. However, doesn't mean to say any other colour won't work. If I'm going for kahawai and rivermouths, blue skirts work really well. So that's just what I found, okay? I mean, any skirt will probably work, but it does up the chances when you're looking for certain species, I guess, having the right colours on. Some people don't like any bling at all, and they just want a hook on the end of that line, and that is fine. There's no harm in that either. I have personally found on any given day, sometimes the skirts are on fire, you put on a float, that works better, or you put on just beads and that works better. Sometimes nothing works good too, just depends on the day and the species you're targeting. So they all have their place to be, you know, part of in the fishing circuit when you're trying to chase certain species. I've also got some tube here, which is stuff that you put on so your beads and that don't slide right up the line. And then last but not least, the 2-hook rigs. I always use 2 hooks unless I'm using crayfish, which I'm then targeting snapper or rig. But other than that, always have a keeper hook. So I've got size 4 main hook, size 2 keeper hook, and they're both going on the rig today. And I've got Suffolk's Ultra Supreme, this one, and this is 50 pound. So 50 pound mono for my traces, and this is exactly the same stuff as what I use when I'm making my traces. So first I want about 600 length of mono. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a normal fisherman's knot to the clip on one end, so that's the first thing. So I'm going to do that right now. Cut the tag off, and there we go. So that's our knot part done to the clip itself. Now at the other end, the first thing I'm going to apply is I'm going to put on one of these little soft tubes, and what you do is you thread it through. Don't know if you can see that, really it's quite hard to do on camera. So thread it through so it goes in the middle like that. And then I'm going to roll it over and then go through the same way again. So we're going to go round and back through, pull it up tight, and then it sort of makes a knot. But that there, this piece here now, can actually slide wherever you want it to go. So I can make it as short or as long as I need to. So I'll pull it all the way back for starters. Now when using skirts, I find I use 4 beads. Okay, so 4 beads is generally rule of thumb which I use. So I've got that tube on here. I'm going to throw on a bead, doesn't matter what colour, you pick what colour scheme you want. Alright, now I'm going to chop the end of the skirt off, and I'm going to use a orange one. We'll say we're going for goonies, so I'm going to use orange one. I'm just going to chop that off just so you get a little hole there, not too big. Now I'm going to thread that skirt onto the line, and that goes up to the bead, right? So that sits here like that. Now what I like to do, and this is a personal thing for me, is I stick 3 beads on. So I then go 1, doesn't matter what colour, and I stick 2 green ones on, then a blue one. Okay, so now you have that sliding up and into there. Then I open up the skirt fold them in, and then what I do is I push those beads right inside that skirt. Okay, so there's two reasons why I do that. One, so now that skirt becomes part of the bead, so I can go up and down freely like so. It's not just clunking along. The second part is that it pushes my hooks out further, so the bait's not sitting right up here in the skirt, and the skirt covering all my bait. I want that, my bait, to be out here. So now when I put my hooks on, I start off with the little one, which is my little 2-bar row, and that goes from the front, thread it straight through from the front, like so, let it fall down into the skirt, and then I get my 4-bar row, my bigger hook, and I'm going to snell it. So I pull it up. You can gauge how long you want your trace. You can make it as long or short as you like. Alright, then I'm going to do a snell, so I go back down, round 6 times, 7 times, and throw it back through the loop, pull it up. Through the loop, pull it up tight. Cut the tag off, trusty little scissors. Now when you drop it down like that, you can see how that's sitting there. Just move that tube all the way down. So what happens now is your things slip to that tube, so it keeps that attractant down where the bait is. And there is one trace. So that's a skirt trace with a keeper hook. Okay. So, and then that's exactly how I make mine. Okay, and that's the colour scheme I use for the certain species I'm trying to target. Now if you're doing a bead trace, so about 600 long again, because it gives you the flexibility to make it as long or as short as you like. Tie the clip on again with a fisherman's knot. Just quickly go through, doesn't take long. Pull it up tight, cut the tag off with my trusty little scissors. Okay, we're going to grab another tube because we want to make sure that it doesn't slide all the way up or all the way down. So we'll grab another 2, since I'm making one more after this as well. More to put on. You can get this in blue, red, or green. Comes in different colours. All right, let's thread that through. This is our stopper. So I find any of these will work any given day, just depends on what you're targeting. So we're going to throw beads on this one, so we go for a combination of a green, blue in the middle, 2 blues and a green on the end. I usually use 3 or 4 beads if I'm doing just a bead one, myself, personal preference. So there you go, there's your colour combination there, green, blue, blue, green, and then the same thing, little hook goes on first, all the way down, tie your big hook on with a snell. Make it the length you want to make it. Snell it up. Pull it up tight. Trusty scissors again. And there's your second one. Bring that down like so. Best thing about this is I can move that line there, I can move it all the way back up there if I need to get that hook out of the way to bait up my trace. Then it can come down, put that hook in, slide it back up, you're ready to attach it to your running rig or pulley rig, whatever one you've got set up on your rod. So there's just a bead one. And then the last one I'm going to do is a float. Now with a float, I always use beads on either side, just so the float doesn't end up riding up the main line. So I always use 1 on one side and 2 on the other. So three beads if I'm using the floats, generally my rule of thumb. And the floats I've got today are pink, orange and green, or just green. I'll throw a pink one on. Now generally these little ones, big ones just need 1 float. Little ones, if you want them to keep them off the ground, I use 2. And I'll do 2 on this one and use back to back. So I'll get 600 again, 600 mils, 60 centimeters roughly of line, just over half a meter. Again, start off by tying your tag on, and we always tie our tag on first, our clip, I should say, speed clip, tag, whatever you want to call it. Right, so we're here, put that on, 5, Rightio, put our little tube on. So it's always the same setup for me, guys. Different lengths for different things, of course, but never changes. Through, pull that tube up, slide it down. Right, so now with the bead, the floats, I'm going to put one bead at the back, just stops it from going over that floater. The beads are a good one for stopping those floats going over top of the stopper, I should say. And then we put these on back to back, so it looks like that. And I'm going to go blue pink for a combination in front of it, and that holds the hooks away from the float so the hook doesn't shoot around and hook into the float itself. Okay, so therefore that's what it looks like there. Okay, now what I'm going to do is put my hooks on, the small one on first, through the front, just let it slide up, they can run, and then snell the bigger hook on at the back. So the thing is with floats, these have a real good purpose for if you're on sand and you're sand fishing, or in rocks even, you want your bait to stay out of the rocks and float above them, or you don't want to get crabs, it keeps it off the bottom. So again, pull that knot down, and there's your floating rig there, all the way through to the clip. Okay, so there's one trace, just the beads, two trace, and then your skirt, which is my go-to 99% of the time, that trace there. So again, any fish will go for any of these traces. Don't just think because you've got skirts you're only going to catch certain species. They'll all work. That's how I tie my traces, guys. That's how I tie them, and that's how I use them. Definitely the orange and the green for gurnard. If I'm chasing carrots, I generally go to those two skirts. Blue if I'm going for kahawai, and pink and orange definitely if I'm going for snapper. So they're generally the colours I use. Floats, again, pink for snapper, the green and orange for the gurnards. Gurnards aren't just on the ground. Yes, they walk along the ground, but they will swim up to a couple of metres off the ground if they're chasing something. So don't think for a minute that you've got a pulley rig and or a floats on that's holding the metre off the ground, or a couple of feet off the ground. You're not going to get gurnard. You will get gurnard. Yeah. So that's it, guys. And the beads, I mean, some people don't like the flashy stuff, and beads is all they want. It does the same thing. You're still going to catch fish with those beads as well. I find personally the green ones are okay, but I personally use the blue and the pink for myself, the beads, and I find that I have a better catch rate with that. That's just a personal preference. Each their own. Some people, especially the older classes, gentlemen of fishing, they don't like this stuff at all. They just want a line straight to a bit of bait, and that works for them. There's no right or wrong, guys. Fishing is an experimental thing, and what could work one day may not work the next. That's why I always have a range of traces and a range of colours. So there you go, guys. That's traces. How to make traces, which go on the videos I've got before with the running rig and the pulley rigs and stuff. This is the traces that I use, and they just go between both of them. Doesn't really matter. Trace is a trace. Anyway, tight lines, happy fishing. Hopefully that's shown you something new. Cheers.